If it sounds like and looks like I've just woken up, that's because I have. So, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I missed last week's episode because let me think of a good reason. I didn't feel ready to do one. I didn't feel like doing solo podcasts was actually of much value. So I put the word out there. I asked people, should I continue to do them? And surprisingly, a good number of people said yes. So thank you for that. I needed that confidence boost or that reason to do them solo. And I asked people what they would like me to talk about. And there was quite a few different subjects, but the one that caught my attention the most was fatherhood and surprisingly fertility, which I'll share my limited knowledge on that, and how things have changed for me and how they can change for you and for anyone when you become a parent, especially during COVID, especially if you are self-employed. So, yeah, they say I was looking at quotes about fatherhood, and I was thinking I'm going to start this podcast by saying a really profound quote, and I couldn't really find anything about fatherhood specifically. But the best and most accurate thing I've heard someone say, someone who I look up to a lot, is Joe Rogan. And he simply said, fatherhood or becoming a parent changes you. That's it. It changes you. And I thought this was, is it hyperbole when someone just says something to exaggerate it? I thought this was just something that people said, because you can't really have a kid and then say, nah, I don't feel anything. I feel the same, because that may make you seem a bit of a psychopath. I'll take it back to the beginning. Before I even met Rach, I didn't think at one stage, I thought I'm never going to be a dad. Because I didn't find, well, firstly, I wasn't emotionally ready. I spent a lot of my life being, especially in relationships, very selfish. I would, things like, and this is something I haven't actually told anyone, I would have a big difficulty in sharing a bed, sleeping in the same bed for the whole night, because I'm a really light sleeper. I remember at one stage in my life, I thought to myself, how am I ever going to meet someone and stay with someone if I can't even share a bed with them for the whole night? This wasn't always an issue, but occasionally it was. And this is a massive issue for, it seemed in my experience, for women, because I think from my experience, part of the thing that a woman likes in a man is to feel protected by him, to feel that closeness physically to him, to have that affection. And sharing a bed is part of that. I do know couples that, older couples that now sleep in separate beds. And this is from people I know, their parents who do that. It's quite rare, but it does happen. And but it's not. I don't think it's. Well, I won't make a judgment, but I think it's nice to sleep in the same bed if you can, or nap together as much as you can. Anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole here already. So I was quite selfish when I was younger, and I was too immature, I would say, to be a supportive partner in a relationship. And then when I met Rach, how old was I? I was 36 when I met Rach. I'm 38 now. And, 36, that's a lot of living that done. There's a lot you learn about yourself. So I stopped drinking. I stopped taking any drugs. I was working for myself, and I realized that I need to be a lot more responsible. And when you don't go out anymore, that you don't go out clubbing, drinking, you start to realize that all of that stuff is fun, and all that stuff is great, and it's good to do that now and then. But it's all noise, really. It's you go out, and your relationships become very transient, very disposable. And that isn't, I don't think, a way to be happy going forward in life. I think we all want companionship. We all want that closeness to someone, some person, and to feel that vulnerability. And that's an exchange we give each other. And therefore, you really need each other. And I find that relationships are quite interesting, and how culture and relationships, or culture affects relationships and vice versa. Like, I was watching this Amy Winehouse documentary, which I'm sure you've seen. Amy, it's brilliant. But in this interview anyway that she did, she talks about how she loves the music of the 60s, the 50s compared to music now. And that's because back then, if you listen to all the doo-wop music and stuff, women are talking about they need a man. It's like my Prince Charming, my hero. And men similarly would talk about how it's their honey or their baby, and it's their only one. And it was very sweet and very, you could say, almost kind of sickly romantic, but still romantic. And it's amazing how pop music reflects our culture, because now, although there are Ed Sheeran's, is it Sheeran or Sheeran? I don't know, but you have people like that who still do love songs. If you look at, like, say, Beyonce, if you like it, you should have put a ring on it or something like that. Like, basically, and if you don't, I don't need you, I pay my own bills, and all this kind of stuff. And similarly, the men are talking about, the way men talk about women, especially in rap music, and how if they're one woman, they get another woman. It's very, they don't mean anything, the women, to them. They just go one to the next. So I feel like our culture, dating wise, has become a bit like that. With Tinder, with Bumble, these apps, you just swipe. If you don't like someone, you go to the next person, and it just becomes basically what they look like. What height are they? What shape are they? And that's how they're valued. And if they're not good enough, you go to the next one. So I did that. I spent a bit of time on, not going to the next one, but I spent a bit of time on Tinder, and that will crush your confidence. Because on Tinder, a big thing is, how tall are you? Or just generally, what do you look like? That's pretty much it. That's how we're valuing relationships when we use things like this. It's all metrics and measurements. And so that didn't really work. It was a bit of a disaster, actually, doing the Tinder thing. So I went off all of that. Plenty of Fish as well. Shout out to Plenty of Fish. I don't know if that's still going. But then when I met Rach, it was organically. We met through yoga. And I spoke about this before, but the key draw to me with Rach, well, firstly, it wasn't, it's in a yoga class, so she wasn't done up at all. Her hair was all tied back, no makeup on, whatever. But we got talking, you see, and you know when you meet someone and you kind of, it's things that you can't pick up online. It's their body language, their eye contact, and obviously what they say as well, and how they say it. But it was the main draw for me with Rach was how kind she was. The fact that I remember speaking to her, saying like, "Oh, what are you doing later?" And she said, "Oh, I'm learning sign language because I think it's important that people who can't hear, they are feel like they're part of a community outside of the deaf community." I thought, wow, that's. For me, I almost instantly fell in love, because I thought that is such a kind thing to do, and I feel like I be that selfless and do something like that. and she'd go with her mum to learn sign language. And I thought, my God, this is someone that's special, and that stuck with me then. And the relationship itself took months and months to actually develop before we actually went out on our first date. But we had our first date July 13th, and she moved in 2 months later to live with me. And I'll get personal here because Rach said it's okay that I do that. So, because I think it's, yeah, I mean, I want to be as honest as I can. So that's quick, like, to move in with someone. And then less than a year and a half later, I mean, it was a year later, Rach went off contraception, and we got pregnant pretty much straight away. There was a miscarriage there before the pregnancy, and I think this is important to talk about because there's some things you don't put on social media and some things you do, and life isn't always smooth sailing. And maybe we'll talk about that situation when Rach is on the podcast in a bit more detail if she wants to, but she said it's okay to say it. And I think this is important to tell you the truth, because we can look at other people's lives and think it's all good and everything is great, but that's not always the case. And often some things shouldn't go on social media all the time. I think we should be quite selective about what we do put out there. But at the same time, it's important to express warts and all, as they would say, the good and the bad, because if it can help people to understand that if you're going through a bad situation, miscarriage, whatever it may be, that you're not the only one. But yeah, we found out on New Year's Eve that Rach was pregnant, and 8 months later, Eve was born, who is our daughter, which sounds weird to say that. So when does fatherhood begin, I wonder? Does it begin when, like in Korea, you're not the age you are from the day you were born. That's not your birth. That is technically your birthday. But in Korea, they count your life from when you were conceived. That's how old you are. So they add 9 months onto that. Sorry if you're Korean or Korean culture and I've misrepresented that. But it's something like that. You kind of get 9 months extra onto your lifespan. So my question is, when does fatherhood begin? I'll tell you how I felt. When Rach told me she was pregnant, I was over the moon. It wasn't even because that's what I wanted, and I didn't think it was going to happen because I didn't know what my fertility was like. She didn't know what her fertility was like, especially after what happened before. And as soon as you find out, you're delighted, but then there's a tidal wave of worry that comes because you think, what if something bad happens now? We've got a whole 8 months to wait. What if the baby's not healthy? So what if the baby is born but they're not healthy? So you've got that on your mind always. I don't know how much battery I've got left in this, so I'm just going to keep going until it runs out. And if it runs out, I'll get another battery. So this kind of worries you. Sorry, 1 second. I'm drinking matcha tea. I've tried to stop drinking coffee because I do like coffee, it's great, but it messes me up in the afternoon and evening time. So just have a little sip of matcha. Yeah, it's nice. Not as nice as coffee, but yeah. Yes. So people said, oh, do you know if it's a boy or a girl? And we hadn't found out yet. And I didn't, for some reason, I just assumed it was going to be a boy. I think because I am a boy, and if it's a boy, I can relate to a boy maybe a bit easier than I can a girl. Makes sense. We have the same equipment and that kind of thing. that's my like that's how. Anyway, that's my thought pattern. And then, but I didn't really care if it was a boy or a girl. What I did care about was the baby was healthy, And this is something you never want to discuss, because what happens, let's be honest, if the baby is born and they're not healthy, and then you feel bad because you thought about that and then it happened, and now you think, okay, well, how does that change the baby's life, our life, and how difficult is this going to be for everyone involved? And that's a difficult conversation to have. So we went to the doctors. I think it's the 20-week scan when you get the gender, when you find out the gender. But anyway, the scan was done. Doctor writes down, I think, F or M on a little bit of card on the actual ultra scan itself. And then you go to the pound shop or the euro shop and you give it to them, and then they put a balloon together, and the balloon is going to have either pink balloons, pink confetti in it, or blue confetti in it. And we get into the car. We drive to Rachel's parents. Social distance, of course. We did it outside, and we popped the balloon. All the pink confetti came out, and Rachel's kind of in shock. But I'd actually seen the pink confetti in the balloon, because the balloon was black, and it was a really sunny day. And because the sun was coming through the balloon, you could see all the pink confetti. So I knew actually before we even popped it what the gender was. But it was brilliant, and it was like a dream looking back on that day, because I think it was like I don't know, June or something like that, May, June, and it was really sunny, and it was kind of a hazy afternoon, and it was pretty magical actually. We felt like we're excited. You start picturing them, what they're going to look like, obviously the name. And we got into the car and we played Stevie Wonder on the driving back, Isn't She Lovely? And I started choking up. I was just like, Rach was crying. I was like, I'm going to cry here. Rach was like, God, I've never seen Kev cry. This is kind of weird. But it was real. I mean, Stevie Wonder. You cry listening to Stevie Wonder anyway, because he's so brilliant. But it was really moving. And I remember the next day, right? Here's to tie this back to rap music. The next day, I woke up to go for a run, and I put on I've just bought a workout playlist to kind of get you going, and I couldn't listen to it. I couldn't actually listen to the rap music, because in rap music, they refer to him in certain ways, so use certain words, and I was like, I can't do it, because I know I'm gonna have a daughter, and I was thinking about someone talking about her that way. So I thought, whoa, this is interesting, and it took me a while. I mean, I do like rap music. I understand it's art and it's not real life. It's entertainment. So it took me a while to get over that, and now I do listen to rap music and all different kinds of music and different lyrics, and I understand that I can create a separation in my mind, but yeah, I thought, wow, okay, already I feel like that protective instinct coming over me, and this didn't really go away. I adore Rach, I love her to bits. She's the most important person in my life, and now obviously Eve. But when you really love someone, if you're a man, you love a woman, and then the woman gets pregnant, it's like this. It's like they're become like a god to you, because they're growing a child inside of them. They're making a life, and half of it is you. And plus, the shape of a pregnant woman is really beautiful. You don't see it that often. Like, it used to be a case of women would wear the maternity dresses to cover up their bump, but now women like to show it off. And I'm biased, but Rach will look so beautiful when she's pregnant. She was real healthy looking, and I thought, I'm really gonna miss this when she's not pregnant anymore, because she looks like, it is like a god, because they're creating life. And as well, pregnant women are treated differently, I noticed, by society. people would like stop her in the street and talk to her, give up their seat for her. People would just you have a responsibility that's suddenly been given to you. You're kind of, she's not really doing anything. Well, she is obviously inside. There's a lot of work going on. It's very tiring. But no, let me retract that. Actually, she's doing a lot. So I started to feel really, really protective, and this I gotta tell you a story here. Sorry, 1 second. I'm saying let's sip. I got this neighbor. I'm gonna be careful what I say here because I don't want to be liable for anything. If they went legal with me, but I've had issues with this neighbor for a while, and a lot of people have where I live. And this neighbor has been disturbing us, or my sleep, really, in certain ways. Trying to be really vague here, in case I get sued or something. So they've been disturbing my sleep for like a year. It's been ongoing and completely unreasonable. Again, I won't go into detail, but anyone in those situations was like, yeah, they're bang out of order, what they're doing. But it was just affecting me. So I thought, look, maybe I should just wear earplugs, figure out something, speak to them, which I did do many times, and try to reason with them. And then one night, Rach was maybe 7 months pregnant. They were doing their behavior, and Rach got really annoyed. She couldn't sleep. And already, because she's heavily pregnant as well, she found that she was getting stressed out. And I'm thinking, right, the last thing that I can accept is Rachel, pregnant, our kid, getting stressed. So again, I don't want to leave myself liable to this. I unleashed the beast. Now, I didn't get violent at all in any way. And when I say violence, people say words of violence. There were words exchanged. There wasn't any physical exchange. Words are not violence, in my opinion. Violence is violence. But put it this way, there was a confrontation, and the person has since never, the behavior stopped. But Rach said she'd never seen me that way. She'd never seen, and I don't think I've ever been that angry. But it was amazing what that brought out in me. It's like, you are threatening my woman and my child, and this is where I draw the line. And I don't want to go past this line because it won't be good for anyone. And I'm not a tough guy at all, completely not. But I do know that you will take action when you're threatened, when your family's threatened. And it's different now because it's not my mum and dad. Obviously, I care about them a lot. I die for them. I love my mum and dad. But when it's your kid and your missus or your partner, you definitely, it changes how you interact with the world. But yeah, it worked out well. I mean, that behavior stopped, and I'm not condoning that behavior, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and it worked, and no one was hurt, so which is good. Yes, so there was that situation, but that was a big difference to the quality of our life. And I was thinking, let's just get to 8 months. Let's get to 8 months, Rach. Then that's I think that's term, or that's there. Baby can be viable, which is a horrible word. I think after 8 months or 7 months or something like that. Then it was right now. Let's get to 9 months. But you're constantly worried. Any little thing that how they feel like is the baby going to come early? Is it going to be dangerous, etc. Yeah, that worry never really goes away, and it becomes a huge build-up. So it gets to a stage where you're like, right, are we going to get to her due date? And to fast forward a bit, we get to September 13th. And September 12th, which is when she was due. And it's like, okay, great. Now is she going to go over? And what challenges is that going to present? Well, thank God, or thank whoever's up there or down there, the next day, again, maybe I won't go into this in detail about how my nose always seems to get itchy when I'm doing this podcast. 1 second, give it a scratch. Use my hand. I'm not right. Anyway, September 13th arrives, and Rach goes into labour. Again, it's best to talk about how she went into labour, what happened when she's on the podcast, because it's quite personal. And I'm like, well, should we go to the hospital? And you think in the movie sort of films that it's a big deal, everyone goes mad. My waters are broke, or quickly, let's get to the hospital, and you're going through traffic and breaking red lights. But it wasn't like that at all. It was like, should we go to the hospital? Or do you want to go for a walk first? Or should we go for a walk after, or whatever? It was real chill. But that's because Rach is real chill. So we drive to the hospital. We drive to Holles Street, which is now called a National Maternity Hospital. And we get in there at 4:20. Rach, I'm doing what I can do. I mean, which is not much, but I'm trying to coach Rach. And I'm trying to use the positive affirmations that we learned, that we can, to help her to get through it. And again, I won't go into the detail because maybe Rach is best to talk about this in terms of interventions and all that type of stuff. But when it came to what we thought would be the final few pushes, the intensity, my God, it was like it real bit up inside me, because you're worried because you don't know what's going to happen, how long are you going to be there for. And I'm looking at Rach. She's in all fours position. There's two midwives down one end of her. I'm down at the her head. And I'm just looking at her face. She's holding onto my arm. Her nails are like digging into my forearm. But, the adrenaline is so high, you don't really feel it. And obviously she's going through what she said was the worst pain in her life. Because she had no, is it epidural? She had no interventions like drugs or anything like that. The blood vessels in her face burst. Right, her eyes are all red, and she's making noises like guttural noises, really primal noises that I've never heard before. And the intensity builds to a climax. And next thing you know, the midwife says, "We can see they're crowning. We can see the head." So I'm like, all right, that's great. But I don't know. I don't know what that means. Is that enough? Next thing you know, the head comes out, and they're like, "The head is out. The head is out. It's great." And I'm thinking, there's no noise. The baby's not making any noise at all. So I'm starting to worry now. Like, is the baby alive? In the films, the baby comes out and they're crying straight away, and the baby's crying. That is. I'm looking at the midwife's faces, and they don't seem concerned. Their kind of eyes are open. They're half smiling, saying, "Come on, good girl, keep pushing," etc. And Rachel's like, "I can't do this. I can't. I've had enough." I'm like, what happens if she stops now? Or what do you do then? So she keeps pushing. And right, you need to get the body out now. Get the body out. And it's like, this is intense. And I don't know. I'm just saying, come on, Rach. Come on, darling. You can do this. What else can I say? I mean, I'm not much use apart from that. So then the body comes out, and it's like, hallelujah, the body's out. Again, no noise whatsoever. At all. Next thing you know, midwife picks Eve up aloft in the air, and then she starts crying, making noises, and I just break down, completely collapse, hands on my face, head down, just sobbing. uh, and I'm really sobbing uncontrollably because it's a mix of relief and gratefulness, I suppose. You're grateful as well that Rach is okay, and that the baby's making and making sounds, etc. And that was that they put Eve then on this thing to measure it. I suppose you call it a scale. And they said 7 pounds or whatever the weight was. Yeah, it was 7 pounds. And sorry. And then Rachel's in shock. Rach doesn't know what's going on. I think all the physical effort had just exhausted her. So she collapses onto the bed. She's seated, kind of seated up, and they give her the baby. They give her Eve, but she doesn't know where. She doesn't know where to look, what to do, and she doesn't even actually look at the baby because she's looking at me. She's kind of in shock, and then she looks down at the baby. I take a picture, which is the one she put up on Instagram, and it's that face. She has the perfect expression in her face. It's one of joy, relief, love. It's really beautiful. And then the baby's given to me, and obviously that's the one I put on Instagram. And you feel it straight away. Like I have heard stories of fathers saying, "I didn't feel anything when the child was born." You get to know them when they start interacting. Not for me. I felt it straight away. I felt bonded to the kid straight away. It felt very natural. I'd never held a baby before because I had no interest in babies. People go, "Oh, here's a picture of my kid." Don't care. I don't have a kid, so I'm not into kids. And it looks like a baby, whatever. That's to be honest with you, I had no paternal instinct. But then when it's yours, well, personally speaking, and maybe it's being a man or just being, I don't know, whatever. It was like this instant connection. I'm looking at her, she's looking back at me, or she's looking whatever she can see, whether it's like a shadow. I'm like, well, she kind of looks like me a bit, even though she's just born. This is mad. And so they can't do anything. So you feel like, all right, now I'm really needed now. Like I got to do stuff. So right, go home, get the clothes, get stuff, drinks, whatever. Bring it back in the next day for Eve and for H. So I say not for Eve. But yeah, straight away I came into the hospital. I was put a onesie on her, which is a funny video actually, but I never shared it. I probably will never share it publicly, but it's quite a funny video of me putting a onesie on her. But yeah, it felt very natural, just holding her like I'd done it before, and it has done since. So this is I thought it was going to be like 20 minutes. God bless you if you're still listening to this. 1 second. So now being a dad during COVID, this has been different to what I thought it'd be, because we can't have family around. It used to be that this is what one of our neighbours telling us, who's a breastfeeding professional, or expert. It used to be generations ago where the mother was breastfeeding, and the her mother and mother-in-law would come around. I think they call it a lay-in, and they would look after the mother who's just had the kid, and they'd take care of her, and they'd have like a support unit, a little team basically. And I believe I shouldn't be always referencing Korea, but in some parts of the world, other women would breastfeed the kid as well, so not just the mother, and they'd lactate at the same time. If I've got that wrong, let me know. But I heard that in Korea anyway, especially like during hard times, that other women would breastfeed the kid. So they kind of share the responsibility. But now that's not possible. So I'm playing loads of different roles. Not breastfeeding, obviously, but not far off. I mean, obviously I fed the baby the bottle, and Rach is working very hard, looking after baby. Breastfeeding is exhausting, especially lack of sleep, etc. And then I'm doing everything else. And that's not just physical support, as in tidying up, cooking, making sure that house chores are done. I mean, Rach does some of them as well. Don't get me wrong, but I'm doing a lot. And but also emotional support. Like, she's got no one to talk to one because we're in lockdown about her nipples hurting and what to do about that. So, and that's why luckily we had a neighbour come to us before lockdown, obviously. Wink, wink. No, it was before lockdown. To give advice, because you can look in forums, when you're worried, and you can look in forums, you can Google stuff, but when you're worried about something, especially medical, you get caught up in like this loop of, oh, I Google this, it could be this, and then you check this, check that, and you end up going around in circles. So it was actually, you need someone to speak to, that emotional support, someone to listen to you. That would like, there's no substitute for someone actually just listening to how you're feeling. And so I'm that emotional support as well. So therefore, my workload has dramatically, or my output, should I say, has dramatically decreased. And initially, I feel guilt about this because I'm like, nah. See, my whole thing is to every day to keep pushing, to do more, to like have good output, to be successful, as it were. And what I've realized now is that I would rather look back on this next 6 months, let's say the first 6 months, and think I did a fraction of the work I could have done, but I spent loads of time with my kid, as opposed to the opposite way around, because you're never going to get those months back again. And we watched this documentary about child development, and it said that the first 3 months are the most important for the child developing. So what I do with Eve is, in the morning time, I get up and as soon as I see her, I'll like pick her up and I'll hold her close, look at her in the eyes. She's looking back at me, and her focus ain't great because she's only 5 weeks old, 6 weeks old, should I say. But if I move my head, she tracks me with her eyes, like kind of not very smoothly, but she's tracking me so she can see where I am. I dance with her. So I have her, and I listen to all like the 50s, 60s music, kind of bit of dirty dancing type music, as in the soundtrack. And it's all very sweet, nice music. You can kind of dance with a baby to that. So she's close to me, she's getting rocked at the same time. I'm singing to her, you can call it singing, and that's supposed to be really good for a kid's development. And I'm really conscious because I'm on camera that something on my mouth, but sod it, that's life, isn't it? When like you you meet someone and you're chatting to them, and then after you chat to them, you realise you had something on your mouth or in your nose, and they never said it to you. Like, how come you never said it to me, man? Help me out. But obviously, you can't say it to me because you can't speak to me. But anyway, yes. So with Eve, looking at her, touching her, being close to her, like giving her a kiss on the head and kiss on the cheek, and kind of that interaction. This is the big reason why. One, my workload output has gone down, but more importantly, I've readdressed where I spend my time. So I deleted Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. They're gone. Yesterday, my phone was turned on for 40 minutes, 40. That's it for the whole day. I haven't turned my phone on yet today. I am going to use Instagram or use my phone once a day for about an hour. This is the plan. Okay, so I'm not saying this is exactly going to happen, but this is what I plan to do. Because my attention span when I try to do meaningful work is fragmented by Instagram. I want to be an example to my kid, and I think, what kind of child or person is she going to grow up to be? And how much of that is going to be, I'm going to be responsible for, and Rach, obviously. What I have noticed with young women, because I never paid attention to it before, growing up, I had female friends, but I mostly spent time with lads, and, but I was aware, obviously, of girls. And, but now, I know, like, when you got a daughter, you start to notice, think like, oh, what kind of girl is she going to grow up to be? And I have started noticing now that, and I have, maybe I just don't pay attention to boys because I don't have a son, but I look at young women, girls, they are glued to their phone, most of them. Walking down the street around my neighborhood, they're like, the phone is in front of their face. Their reality is being filtered through this phone. And two of them could be walking together and they're looking at their phones, at each other's phone at the same time, instead of looking at each other talking. And while this can seem like it's unavoidable, singularity, eventually the phone is going to become more and more integrated into us until it's a chip in our body and everything is, we can't escape it. Yeah, you can say that and be kind of take that attitude. Fair enough. But Instagram is great. It's a great tool to get yourself out there. It speeds up your ability to connect with people in a way that nothing else has. So it's fantastic. I love Instagram. Brilliant for getting stuff out. But we have to ask ourselves, as a self-employed person, someone who promotes yourself, how much time are you spending creating versus consuming? And what are you consuming? I've done teacher trainings, and where I've talked about Instagram, people ask me, or I talk about like branding on Instagram and how to get loads of followers. Let's be clear here. The metric in terms of how successful you are on Instagram is how many people follow you. That's it. That is the metric, how most of us see value on Instagram. And there are loads of ways you can get followers on Instagram. There's tons of ways. But if we're honest, the number one way to get a lot of followers is to be good looking. Bombshell. If you're not classically good looking or contemporary in terms of have contemporary good looks, then you need to do stuff that physically looks impressive. So, for example, if I give you a practical example, for men it's a bit easier because a lot of Western aesthetics is based on the Greeks. If you look at the statue of David, it's by Michelangelo. His body is slim, athletic, six pack, big shoulders, legs, but he's a slim guy, and that hasn't really changed. When we see the ideal body type for male, I'm doing a little bunny inverted commas here. That's what people think of and what's advertised. For women, it's kind of gone up and down. It's changed with culture and trends, and obviously geographically it changes as well. But God, it must be so hard for women. It's hard enough for men, but for women to think like, what's the in thing now? What do I have to try and look like now to be accepted? But ultimately, if you look a certain way, whatever the culture is telling you where you are at that time, people are going to follow you. All right. And then then naturally you're going to think, okay, my value is what I look like. And the closer I look to this ideal, the more people are going to like me, follow me. Then brands want to sponsor me, students want to hire me, or people want to know me. Okay. So your whole value of yourself is based on what you look like. You're setting a kid up here, or a kid is being set up by the algorithm, more importantly, for failure, for mental health destruction, body dysmorphia, all that stuff. So now, if you're not good looking, then do something physically impressive. Put your leg behind your head, stand on one hand, all that kind of stuff. And these are the two things, the surefire way to get but get popular on Instagram. But if you haven't got that, then you have to have a skill, you have to add value, be creative, do good artwork, something like that. Okay, but essentially it's driven by the aesthetic, typically speaking, because it is a photography platform. So now this directly affects how much I use my phone, because when I'm with Eve, I'm looking at her. Okay, she's doing nothing. Like, she's just looking at generally my forehead area. She tends to look at my forehead or my hairline. I don't know why, but she kind of got these big blue eyes, and she's looking at me. And my phone has been there before on the side, and I'm thinking, I'm so tempted to check my phone for no reason. Often the reason is I'm checking to see if who liked my last post on Instagram. Like, who cares? This is my kid in front of me looking at me. I could think, oh, this is a baby. They're not picking up much. And my phone is here. I could be doing a little bit of work as I look after my kid. No, you're not. You're doing neither. You're not doing work. That's not good quality, productive work. And you're also physically there with your kid, but not emotionally. So you might as well not be there at all. So it has to be one or the other. And I've decided that my kid is more important than anything now. Those 3 months, the first 3 months, she's my project now. She's what I need to look after. And when I do work now, it's on the laptop. Okay, you can do a lot on your phone, but what you'll find on your phone is you start scrolling. It's hard to type. When you've got your laptop, I don't have a login here for my Instagram on my laptop, so I can't go on Instagram. And like yesterday, for example, I was on my phone for 40 minutes, and I did work on my website. I redesigned my platform, 3 weeks trial available. And what else did I do? Sorted out my taxes. I worked on a workshop, so developing this workshop that I've been put on the back burner for ages, but actual productive work as opposed to scrolling. What are the people thinking? What are the people doing? How many likes did my thing get? Replying to DMs that don't really... it's important when someone messages you to message them back, but to get caught up in these long-winded conversations on direct message is a waste of time for me, and should be for everyone, I think. Emojis, laughing faces, GIFs, all this stuff is great. It doesn't replace human contact. And for the person who asked me, I'm sorry I forgot your name, they said they feel lonely at the moment in lockdown, and they said, I need social media because I can't see people. I mean, what do you think as the listener here? By the way, if you're watching on video, I had to switch camera there because battery ran out, as I thought it would. But yeah, is it, we're thinking it's going to replace human contact, but maybe, and I'm not saying I have the right answer here, instead of spending that time on social media, you could do a course online. You could study. I'm thinking about going back to college and studying psychology in DCU. But you could do something like that, perhaps. You could join a group where you have Zoom calls or something. But for me, texting is it's like Morse code. It's handy to say, I'll meet you at this time, or yes, no. That's about it. But beyond that, for me, it's a waste of time. And this is the reason why I started a podcast, because I love meeting people. We think we all do, and some of us are shy, and shyness is a disease, as in a dis-ease. I don't think anyone likes being shy particularly. But social media can be great if you're socially awkward, and you're like, oh, this is a lot easier than actually having to speak to someone, because it's so difficult. It's awkward. What if I say the wrong thing? I can't take it back then, or I do the wrong thing. And this is what I'm conscious of, how Eve is going to grow up. I want her to be able to connect with people, to be an affectionate person, to understand her body, have good proprioception. And this is why I do exercise with her. I exercise her legs, and I'm changing a nappy, exercise her arms. I look up, down, left to right, get her to exercise her eyes, her head as well, the whole lot. Give her some tummy time, because I know this technology is always going to be there, and she can always learn how to use the latest iPad, or probably by the time she's of age, it'll be like a virtual reality or something. She can pick that up, but the fundamental building blocks of any person, for me, is how they connect with other people, and then how you understand yourself. Because so I'm trying to be present with her. I know we say that a lot in yoga, but to spend time, I just look at her and she's just looking back at me. We're looking at each other. um, but it's very rewarding, and it's good to know you're needed. I know it sounds like maybe a bit pathetic, but I spent so much of my life going, what's the point in my life? Like, I mean, I had an instinct. I want to look after someone, people. I would love if we had like 3 kids. The only thing stopping me is money. 3 kids, and we're just chilling. I'm like 50 years old. We got a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, and whatever, 11-year-old, and we're watching a movie together. And maybe I'm falling asleep, and oh look, Dad's asleep again, and that's like my little tribe. I know that word gets used a lot, but my little clan, as we say in Ireland. And yeah, I would really love that. So please God, fingers crossed, that can happen. I just the reason why someone brought up fatherhood to me, and again, I won't say names, but thank you for your question about fatherhood. And their situation was, they said that they got into a relationship, had a kid with this person, and then he didn't want to be the father. Well, he didn't want to be like play father, as it were. Like I think he left her and the child. And the question was like, that transition, how difficult is it or easy it is? It's a really tough one to answer, because I don't know the circumstance to which you had the child. Like, was it planned or not? And for me and Rach, we went off the contraception. It said like, let's just keep going. You know what I mean? And if we have a kid, great. It could be in next month, it could be next year. Turned out it was a couple months later. So that was already in mind, and we'd already been living together for, I know it was only a year, but we spent all our time together. I met her family, she met my family, and we both wanted that, to be parents. So yes, it's the things that's changed, I would say, is people say it affects your sex life. It hasn't affected ours. I mean, obviously, after you have a kid, you got to wait and etc. But I think, like, just not speaking about your case, the person asked this question now, but generally speaking, and this ties into fertility as well, fellas. Looking after your missus, right? And I mean, like, I don't mean financially. I mean physically looking after them, hugging them, kissing them, giving little foot massages, all that stuff. It's a daily practice, right? Asking them how they are, tell them, I love you, sweetheart, I love you, darling. You're beautiful. And okay, find things about your partner that you really love, and tell them. I think in Irish culture, definitely, I don't think I know this because my parents are Irish and I lived there for 20 years. I've been living there for 20 years. People don't take compliments very well, especially women. You say, oh, you got gorgeous eyes. Go away out of that. So, in America, you say you got gorgeous eyes there. Oh, thank you, so have you. Or, you've got lovely hair or whatever. It's this thing of like putting ourselves down. Well, and I don't know if Irish men, Englishmen I'd consider to be romantic, but romantic isn't like buying flowers and all that stuff. That flowers die. How you speak, how you interact with them, give them a kiss, give them a hug, all that stuff. That's what creates a good sex life, I think. I'm not a sex expert here, but you can't just like not speak to the person. Kind of, you go about your day, they go about their day, and all of a sudden it's like, darling, it's 6 o'clock, to the bedroom. I'm not, again, I'm not a foreplay expert here, but it's all part of the package. You to be intimate with them doesn't mean you have to have sex all the time, but to actually to hug them, to cuddle them, and to look into their eyes, to dance with them. We're in lockdown, but put on some tunes, dance around the room. You've got a kid, you can dance with the kid as well. I think that makes a difference to your sex life, right? For one, And I was asked to talk about fertility. I don't know about women, as in what they can do to optimize their fertility. Helena Tubridy is actually, she was on episode, I'm not sure which one, but about 10 episodes before this. And she's an expert in fertility, natural fertility coach. But my experience as a man is a few things. Number one, if you're a fella, or if you have a fella as your partner, keep your testicles cool. They're on the outside of the body for a reason. I believe it's 3 degrees they need to be below your body temperature. I never put my laptop on my lap, because if you feel the underside of your laptop, even though I haven't even turned this on yet, it's heated. And if you have your laptop on you for 3-4 hours a day, your testicles are at a higher temperature than they should be. This is not an optimal for your sperm to be healthy. I'm not a doctor. This is just research I've done myself and trying to put good practices. I mean, I'm no spring chicken, so I got to optimize my health as best I can. So keep your testicles cool for a start. Your body weight. And this is not to body shame anyone, but let's be honest. Helena said this herself. That's the number one thing. If you're carrying extra weight as a fella, your testosterone is going to be affected. Your sperm count's going to be affected. What you eat is more important than what exercise you do. So diet is most of how your weight is. Drinking enough water. So I make sure that I very rarely will eat sugar. Very rarely. I don't eat like refined processed food. I very rarely eat takeaways. I mean, naturally, I have a lower body fat percentage, I would say, than most, maybe. But I have been fat. I have been overweight in the past. Chubby, round face. I've showed pictures on Instagram of this. I had a belly. I mean, I used to like keep my t-shirt on because I remember someone actually commented once in a nightclub, said that the shirt on my thing was going to burst because my belly was so big. And I was like, oh God, that's terrible. It's like really embarrassing. But keeping your weight down through eating well, clean food. Now, whether you can be vegan or meat eater or vegetarian, that's really up to you. But natural, organic food as well. Reduce your pesticides, and that includes like putting hot food into plastic's bad because it's got BPA, and this obviously gets into the food. And we want to reduce how much chemical we use. This is part of the reason why I use filtered water, and I put natural minerals in it, natural trace minerals. Then once you've got your food, I mean, it'll be 80% good stuff, 20% naughty stuff. That's a fair ratio to start off with. Exercise. It's difficult, I know. I mean, I'm going through a stage now where I'm finding it hard to motivate myself to exercise sometimes, right? It happens. Especially you're at home and you can't go to a studio or a gym, and therefore that's your space where you do your stuff. You're doing it at home, so the dog's barking, baby might be doing something, your partner might be doing something. When I exercise, I said this before, I do it like my life depends on it. If I'm running, I run like there's someone running after me. I'm running after someone. Like I need it for my survival. I got the music pumping, and I'm doing it 100%. I'm not going through the motions, which can be easy to do. Same in yoga. You can kind of arms up, arms down. When you put your arms up, are you really putting your arms up? And there's a difference. And this just takes practice to be able to optimize how we use our body. But to do that every single day, I think, personally speaking, as a man, getting your aggression out is important. Like I think, I shouldn't go into a lot of detail here, really, should I? Because I should probably do this with someone who's maybe like an anthropology or sociology expert. But aggression is important. It's how you channel that aggression. I actually think this is the reason why MMA and mixed martial arts cage fighting has become so popular, because I think to some degree this whole toxic masculinity, which can exist, but you've seen the whole Gillette campaign which was an absolute flop for Gillette, but they try to conflate boys roughhousing to like Harvey Weinstein or the Me Too movement, like boys roughhousing. Boys, little boys, because I was a little boy, need physicality. Most of them. Now, I'm not saying all the boys all the time, clearly, but as I think most men most men that I've interacted with need physicality. So whether that be jiu-jitsu, wrestling, play fighting, judo, football, something where you're in combat and but it's done in a controlled way where you respect your partner or the opposition. I think that's really needed. This could be complete bro science here, like pseudoscience, as it were. But I know that if I don't, I need to get that out, that energy out, that yang energy. Otherwise, I just get sad. I get depressed. And when you're depressed, when you're sad, you don't want to have sex. Another thing is if your partner is a man, compliment them. I know that they should be complimenting you, definitely looking after you, being nice to you. But say to them, darling, you look good today. You look looking athletic, or you've lost some weight, or you've put on weight, or just give them, like, men need it as much as women do. And, say like to your man, if he's started exercising, whatever you're doing, darling, keep doing it because you look great. And people are like, oh, do I? I actually feel much better about myself. Empathize that it can be difficult every day to keep going. But when you start looking after yourself, eating well, moving, sleeping well, which can be challenging, and then you start having sex, good sex often, that becomes a cycle. Right, I'm going to keep this going. So that's my advice for fertility. I suppose that's probably not very scientific, and I appreciate that. But I think that to me that's common sense. And to guys who are like, man, I can't go gym, I can't lift anything, so I can't exercise. As you've seen the other day on Instagram, lift your missus or your dog or whatever, something that you're able to lift. You lift them up like 10 times and do that 4 times. And that's your instead of lifting a barbell, obviously lift them carefully and put them down carefully. And then that gives you that physicality with your other half. Yes, that's probably enough. I'm not a fertility expert, but I do know that these things, maybe it's a coincidence or not, they've obviously worked for me. And men, you are half the formula when it comes to making a baby. But in the past it was like, oh, just man's got to have the sex, and then it's the woman has to do the rest. No, it's the quality of the sperm, and that obviously is so important as well. So this has been an hour, and I thought it was going to be 20 minutes. Thank you for the confidence and the questions that you asked. I appreciate it a lot because I'd like to continue doing these. As you can probably tell, I feel a bit awkward doing them, especially on video because I don't know if I've got something on my face or how I come across. But I love this medium, as you know. I love podcasts and I think it's fantastic. And I don't know what's going to happen for this lockdown thing, right? In December, they say they're gonna change the restrictions, but I'm on the fence about COVID, as in, I won't go into that in detail, okay? But I would really love to start having guests again. Thank you for your suggestions regarding guests. If you're looking to get in contact with me on my website, if you're looking to get in contact with me on WhatsApp or Instagram, they are only on my phone, so I'm going to I'll get back to every 24 hours on that. But otherwise, I'm contactable via email all the time because I'm on my laptop. We'll see how long this social experiment lasts for, because you can't say you're going to do something forever. Well, you can, but it doesn't mean you're going to. But I have good intentions to do that and to give my attention to the people that need it most for the moment. So thank you for your attention. Oh, well, that was a smooth transition. And I really appreciate it. As you know, you have my platform you can sign up to. November is going to be the last month where I'm doing the 3-week trial. After that, I plan to do no free week trial, and maybe I'm thinking about a promotion in January sale, as it were. We'll see though. I'm doing a teacher training in February with Carol Murphy and Tashi Dewa, and that's going to be online, 200 hour. So if you'd like to see that, you do kevinboyyoga.ie for all information. And make sure you look after yourself. If you have a partner, look after them, a baby, give them loads of attention. Social media is fantastic, it's brilliant, it's great, but understand, are we addicted? Can we go to the toilet without taking our phone with us? And this is something only you can answer. Do you find you're looking at stuff that doesn't help you, and that if it doesn't, get rid of it and focus on the people that help you and the things that help you. So thank you for helping me, for listening to me, because I love doing this, and if it wasn't for you watching or listening, it wouldn't be possible. So much love to you, and I'll catch up with you next week.